right, here we are at the machine. And I know you're a little bit crooked, but I am having to do that because just off the screen this way, there is an attachment on my machine that makes the camera want to focus on it instead of what we're sewing. And I thought you might find that frustrating. All right, so we are going to go ahead and do the deeper seam here. We need that strength. So I'm gonna remove this pin before I start. I don't want to break my needle right off the bat. I will do a small bit of back stitching here, not much. Okay. This isn't going to be fast sewing here, so don't, if you've got your treadle machine, don't pedal fast. You're only going to go a short distance at a time. And I'm checking underneath every now and then just to make sure things are looking and feeling correct. And I do think one day I am going to sew on my treadle machine when I'm doing a demonstration for you ladies. I do have one. I might need you to teach me how to use it. It was my children's great-grandmother's sewing machine, and I recently had it serviced. So the serviceman tells me it's running beautifully and does gorgeous stitches. I'll admit I do not yet know how to even get thread on the bobbin, but I promise you I will do like you, look up some videos online and see what I can learn so I can join you as a treadle master. I'm so sorry I keep bumping that. I think I am halfway. I hope that the machine isn't too loud and noisy. One benefit you have with the treadle machine is there's no motor, so it's going to be nice and quiet and peaceful. I remember my grandmother sewing on a treadle machine. My father's mother, and I just loved sitting there listening to the sound of that machine and watching, seeing what she was going to make. Every now and then she would make us some dress for our dollies. And she didn't have any girls. She only had my father, so he was the only child. And she loved making us doll clothes. I suspect it was because she missed that experience of sewing for a little girl. And so the dresses she made for our dolls always had pretty trims on them, a lot of detail. So they were very special, and each of us girls, there were 4 of us girls in my family growing up. I also had 3 brothers, but we each have one dress that our grandmother made, so very, very special to us. All right, so now you see, remember how I said, well, we have to have a way to turn this, correct? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to look inside of our bag and find that hole. There we go. There it is. Now I'm just going to reach in there and start pulling everything out through that hole. And we will find a cute bag at the end of this process. Now it's going to come out a little funny, right? Wow, look at that. I'm going to adjust the camera here. Sorry for my hand being in the way, but I'm going to make it a little bit taller so you can get a better view of what's going on here. Look at that. But this isn't hard to imagine what to do next, right? We've got the outer bag, the liner. We're going to need to get that liner down inside our bag. And look at that. There we have our really cute little bag. Now, I want to take a minute before we go any further. Remember I said the directionality of the pleats? So you see how on the left side, the pleat's facing toward the seam. The same on the right side is facing toward the seam. So, but again, that's just how I chose to do them. They all could have been facing one direction or the other. I just wanted them to face each other. It doesn't matter. You get to decide how you want it to look. They're doing the same thing down at the bottom. Okay. And let's just see what it looks like inside. Ha-ha, look at there. There's the inside. And look, because of the way we joined the top band, remember how we had it down inside, then we put the liner inside there, and then we sewed all the way around? Well, look, they are hiding now. The seam allowance is hiding. You cannot see it. And once we sew this hole shut, nobody will be able to see it. But before we do, this is where I wanted to talk about. If you were going to want to put some foam in here on the bottom, what you're going to need to do is go ahead on the side where you've got that hole. I want you to pinch so that the two bottom pieces, so this is the lining bottom and this is the outer bottom. Okay, the two bottoms. You would be putting your foam on one of these and stitching it down. So you would need to pull this back out, and truthfully it should be, I would stitch it to the outer bottom. Okay, but we also don't want our purses coming apart. When somebody reaches in to get something, we want that purse to stay down there on the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to pinch these two together, and I'm lining up that side seam. So here's the side seam, and there's a side seam. I'm lining those up. It's really important that those be lined up, and we're going to pin because I do not want these to separate. Now we're going to pull them back out through that hole, and never mind the fact that we just pulled everything out and it looks so good and it was really fun to look at it, but we need to make this one last step. And it's important that we start out with these guys pinned together because it's going to start to be looking like a jumbled mess any second here. But we aren't going to worry about that. We aren't going to worry what it looks like, okay? Now, here's what we're going to do. We've sort of got a bit of an infinity loop. We're not going to worry about that. We are going to sew our way around this. And this is what I'm saying. See how these are the two bottoms? And here's the outer fabric. Here's the lining fabric. We're going to sew and we're going to work our way around. But look, when we get to the opposite side, right, we've got quite the mess. What you're going to do at that point, you're going to just stop for a minute and get in there and start pulling it out of that circle. Okay, and you're just going to keep working your way around, digging in there, and eventually, watch, we will get back to where we started. All right, this stuff will keep working its way around. Once you've done this a few times, you will understand what's happening. I get that it's confusing in a video, especially when it's the first time you've done this, but I will tell you, this technique is for a fully lined anything. Fully lined bag, a fully lined jacket, a fully lined dress, skirt, jacket, whatever. It's always going to have this particular problem at some point. You'll get familiar with it, so don't despair. Don't get overwhelmed by it. Just trust. That's why we pinned it to start, and then we just follow those two pieces all the way around. We're just going to keep on lining them up. If I have to move things around, I have to move things around. It's okay. But what you cannot do is pin all the way around. That won't work. We're not going to be able to do that very easily. You know, when you get to be expert, you can. But as a beginner, we're not going to do that, all right? But don't forget, if you want the foam, you're going to put it in now. If I wanted to put a piece of what we call plastic canvas in, I could do it now. I'm not going to because I don't like the way that stuff, if it goes through here, we use a washer and a dryer. And when that comes out of the dryer, it's going to be quite a mess. So I'm just really going to trust that my fabric, I've got a canvas for my bottom. That's good enough. So anyway, I'm going to stop the video. Then I will sit down at the sewing machine and you can watch as I go around this and turn the bag and you'll see the magic that happens.